Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Klickitat County Commissioners, March 19th, 2024. And let the record show all three commissioners are in attendance. So we'll start with a pledge of allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any additions to the agenda?
Not that I can think of. Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
I just would like to add discussion about tonight's meeting right after public comment, so I can get an email.
Okay.
So Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the business agenda with one add-on, a discussion about tonight's town hall inserted after public comment.
I'd second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those agenda approved. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda with 14 items. Oh,
Oops.
my head.
Whoops. You're in a hurry today.
Yeah. I'll pull my motion.
Thank you. So we've reached that time in our agenda for public comment. If you're called from the room, please step forward and give your name and where you're from. And the same for Zoom. If you're called from Zoom, please let us know who you are and where you're from. Thank you very much. We'll start with the room. Is there anybody in the room that would like to give public testimony today? Come forward, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Larry Matson. I am the Renewable Energy Grants Section Supervisor with the Department of Commerce for the state. And I'm joined by Aaron Peterson. Aaron is with our policy group. And what we're doing over the next 2 weeks or so, the Department of Commerce has a clean energy siting and permitting grant program that's brand new. And we're going out to the 6 counties in central Washington to make sure, because this is where the large wind, large solar projects are being cited, just to make sure that you and your staff are aware of the program and answer any questions. And so just to summarize, this is a $10 million recurring every biennium program, and eligible uses of the grant funding include supporting pre-development work for sites intended for clean energy projects, land use studies, conducting or engaging in planning efforts such as planned actions and programmatic environmental impact statements, and staff to improve permit timeliness and certainty. And we have a grant window that's currently open that closes April 5th. And then there will be another one, a third opportunity to apply that opens in mid to late April and will be open for about 6 or 8 weeks. What else? I think those were the main things. But happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Do you want to reserve questions till after public session? That's our normal status.
No.
Good.
I have time.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving to Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom this morning? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, wait.
Okay, I will come back to the room. Is there anyone on Zoom this morning? 7211.
Good morning. This is Greg Wagner with the Group C, Citizens Educated About Solar Energy. I'd like to address that man that just spoke. We, the citizens of Klickitat County, do not want any more renewable energy projects in our county. You can take your money and take it back on the other side of the Cascade Mountains and let Governor Inslee put solar panels on Bainbridge Island where he lives, put wind turbines in Puget Sound, so all you people on the west side can see what it's like to have this useless so-called green, clean energy that Inslee's pushing off on all the citizens on the east side of the Cascade Mountains. We are flat tired of it. We don't want it over here no more. Benton County doesn't want it. Yakima doesn't want it. None of us want it on the east side. So take your money and go back on the other side of the Cascade Mountains and build your solar sites over there. We don't want it. The other thing is, Mr. Anderson, when are you going to comply with the county building codes? You have 2 code violations filed against you, code complaints for your unpermitted short-term rental. The last planning director told you 3 times last year, you must have a conditional use permit. You are in violation of the county and state building codes at your unpermitted short-term rental. Ms. Zoller, Mr. Christopher, you are the 2 commissioners that can direct the code compliance officer to investigate your seatmate's unpermitted, illegal short-term rental. It's about time that you step up and do your job and make him have to comply with the same county codes that every other citizen must comply with. You are complicit in being just like Jake Anderson then. You're no better than him if you allow him to continue to break the law. That's RCW 4223, where he is using his position as a commissioner for special privilege and exemption. And that means he's not having his short-term rental investigated, the complaints. It's about time you 2 step up and do your job as commissioners. You are paid public servants. He is supposed to follow the same rules as everybody else. Remember saying that, Jake? We must all play by the same rules. How about we all must trust the enshrined process? You don't trust the enshrined process. You will not get a conditional use permit. You don't want to have to spend the money. You don't want to have to do your job. You are no leader. Leaders lead by example, and you are a poor example of a leader. It's time for you to go. Bye.
Thank you. So we'll go back to the room.
Thank you for your time this morning. I am Aaron Peterson. I work for the Department of Commerce out of Ellensburg. Larry and I came down this morning. He's out of Yakima. And in addition to what Larry had talked about with grants for permitting and zoning and planning and those things you're familiar with already, as I'm running a study, some of it run from comments that we just heard and working with the Association of Washington Counties, some consultants is how this works. As a consultant does the surveys, it keeps the state at arm's distance away. So hopefully the input can be more candid rather than talking to an agency person. So we've talked to, I believe, your county assessor, planning commission, to get input from this county. We're also talking with Yakima, Benton, Klickitat, Grant, Walla Walla, Columbia, the southeast corner, the west, east, north, central, southeast, and also, north of Seattle up in Whatcom, Snohomish, some in Lewis County. So it's a statewide survey, and it's actually called ruralcleanenergywashington.org. Some of your county staff has that info already. It's going to be running through this summer, and what this comes from is 2022 legislation that was just, as you're familiar, I can use the term FSEC because you know what FSEC is. So you've got the FSEC versus county issue, and I think that's what it's called. People might call it something else, but that's kind of what it boils down to, is who gives out or who doesn't give out the permit. And this study comes from Southeast representatives and senators and up towards Quincy as well. Representative Ibarra, Dye, Clicker, that area. And so we're completing the study and I'm the one running it. So we wanted to come down and put a face to the study that you'll be hearing about. You can participate in it or not. We have some online comments that people will hear about. Hopefully your local newspapers will be printing the information. So those who get the actual piece of paper will know. Because I read things in the paper, and that's what I learned about Ellensburg. So it'll probably be the standard issue, the ways the state gives out info. And the idea is that we send this report to the legislature before they come back in January 2025. And they might take some recommendations that they hear in the report. They might not, but we'll present them a report. And we'd like this county's input on the impacts, good, negative, positive, otherwise, on what's called, I guess, clean energy. So thanks for your time, and I'm out of it.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom this morning? Jean? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Just wanted to say thanks for the E-Town Hall. I really appreciate that opportunity for later on in the evening, folks that can attend, that can't attend the meetings in the mornings. I have two questions this morning, and one is sort of related to what the gentleman from CEAS was asking about. Just watching the previous BoCC meetings, and regarding the workshop topic of the short-term rentals, I did notice that one commissioner did recuse, apologies if that's not the right term, and the other commissioner actually didn't have a comment and couldn't comment. So then that workshop topic could not go forward. So my question is about the mechanisms that are in place to get beyond those types of topics that are of concern to portion of Klickitat County, to lots of folks in the county area. So that's my question about not being able to move past those things. What mechanism is in place? And then a short second question is about how often, with what frequency, the workshops are planned to take place in the future. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Back in the room, any other public comment this morning for the room? I think we can go back to Zoom. Good morning, Rita.
Morning. My name is Rita Pinchot, and I'm calling in from White Salmon as a mom, community member here, and mental health provider who's provided services here for over 10 years. I'm calling in this morning to express my concern about the status of things at our county jail and to request that you all, as our Board of Commissioners, take action. For the last 2 years, I have heard repeated stories of human rights being violated at our county jail. It's gotten to the point where the violations are reaching a national news level. It's embarrassing, and it's completely out of compliance with state laws. I would ask that you all, as our Board of Commissioners, take some ownership instead of passing this down the line. You all control our county budget, and that budget right now is being mismanaged and used to make excuses that are harming real people. On that note, I would say that the budget is also incredibly important to all of us as citizens of this county, because that money is now going to fight lawsuits. That's not okay. I would like you all to consider what you might do to have some open discussion with those of us in the county who might have some ideas about solutions, to take over leadership of the jail, to demand answers from the incompetent leaders that you currently have in place there, and do something. And if you can't do that, if you can't keep people safe there and give them a chance to actually get better, which is supposed to be the whole point, then you need to shut it down and find someone else who can help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone new in the room, so we'll continue with online. Becky, good morning.
Oops. Hang with me. Yeah, hi. I also, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Becky Miles from White Salmon. I also want to thank the commissioners for the opportunity for people to listen and to speak tonight at a town hall. But I too want to talk about, the matter of the jail scene that recently came to light. As a matter of humanity, I hope we are all in agreement that the recently exposed treatment of an inmate should never have happened. And it seems to be unique to Klickitat County. Other jurisdictions have found ways to give decent care to their inmates. This feels like negligence to me, since the ratio of staff per inmates, which is on par with other counties, manage to keep their inmates safe from vermin and disease. I'm amazed at the sheriff, who continually publicly espouses keeping the state out of their business, turns around and blames them for their incompetence and or negligence. And as a Klickitat County resident and taxpayer, I hope you'll also share my concerns of the legal exposure that the sheriff's department is bringing down on our county. I'd also like to add, while I have the time, for the person who spoke earlier from CEAS, I don't really have a position on that, but I'm not clear why you're blaming the state for the local energy farms. It was the previous BoCC that created the energy overlay that was completed in 2004. And it was designed to fast track renewable energy here in the county. It really was not a state initiative that at least I'm aware of. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. So anyone else online this morning? We have an iPhone, but we don't have a name or a number.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good morning. This is Leslie Naramore with Washington Gorge Action Programs.
Thank you,
And
Leslie.
I just wanted to follow up with what Rita said and ask that you please do something about the state of our jail. It is absolutely embarrassing. Mr. Culp has no prior experience running a jail, and we are now reaping all of those benefits. So I'm just, please look into this. Secondly, I just wanted to say thank you to the 2 members of Commerce who came down to visit Klickitat County today. We don't get to see you all very often, so we appreciate having you around. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready for Sherry?
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to follow up on a few things here. You know, this has been a discussion that I've been involved with for 4 years now regarding the under canvas cup and its litigation. And I've had email conversations with Commissioner Christopher, and he says he refuses to make a motion again. He says he's already made a motion to withdraw from litigation for the under canvas. And let's be clear, people are online being upset about lawsuits with the county because of the jail. Well, I think the people need to be a little bit upset that our county uses our own tax dollars to fight and war against its own people and our safety. It's our safety that we have appealed the county's decision to put a small town off a road that cannot evacuate, it cannot hold that traffic. And our county has decided to use its own county funds to continue a litigation to war against its own people's safety. So when you're upset about the jail, be upset about these litigations that our county chooses to stay in. And when I say chooses to stay in, I know you 3 people up there, you commissioners, you can at any moment decide as a body to withdraw your litigation on the under campus. I'm tired of the excuses. You've done it before in litigations. You did it with the Hughes and BZ rezoning. The county withdrew. I am ordering you as one of the people to withdraw your war, your litigation fight against the people here who you have been proven time and time again with evidence now from the school board. The children are now in danger. The children get off school buses on that road. You have been given evidence, and as an ethical, moral body, you must make the decision to withdraw this litigation immediately. Go back to your friends under canvas and tell them you're done spending our taxpayers' money fighting for them. You just be done with it. And also about renewable energies, we are being scammed. I have a solar system in my house. It can't charge the batteries I have. I got to take a generator with some fuel and charge that battery bank. We're not set up for solar here in this area. We don't get enough sunshine. We're being scammed, and then our farmlands are at stake. How are we going to feed our children? Are we going to depend on Taiwan broccoli? Like, come on, guys. People need to wake up. We have other forms of energy that would better fit our grid, to better fit our future than to put these toxic panels all over the farmlands. And then what are we going to do with those farmlands in the future? We take them out of farmlands. We have beautiful farmlands in Klickitat. So anyway, again, I'm ordering your body, your corporation, to withdraw your litigation immediately against the people on under canvas. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom this morning? 2662.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Tracy from Lyle. On Wednesday of last week, I dropped off some papers regarding my address problem. I know I brought this up with you many a times, but a tax legal recorded property in Murdoch, 421 Klickitat Avenue, is not located on the GIS mapping system in Klickitat Avenue. It's in fact located in Klickitat, in the town of Klickitat. I brought this up to Jeff Hunter, and he has not done anything. And I'm asking the commissioners, as the body of elected officials, to please ask Jeff Hunter if he will address this issue. A tax parcel should not change from the GIS coordinates that it is located in. Now, this was a similar thing that was brought up July 20th of 2021. Chairman Sauter, a citizen, had brought up to his attention that a parcel was not in the right position on the GIS system. Chairman Sauter asked Jeff Hunter about this situation, and Jeff Hunter said it was a mapping base layer error and it would be fixed. So it can be fixed, commissioners, and you can do the job. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the emergency proclamation. So our storm, our 2-week at most winter storm that we had with the low temperatures ended January 24th. Why do we still have an emergency proclamation in effect today for a storm that ended January 24th? Jeff King got it extended on the first week of February, I believe, and it is still going on today, which means that rules don't need to be followed. Next, I'd like to go into a commissioner meeting on May 18th of 2021. At this meeting, Commissioner Anderson stated, this is in regards to the communication, he stated that CenturyLink is the only viable source of internet connection for the county. And then he also stated that going fiber to the end for network to the end would be an expensive and just not even conceivable. And then he also stated that he was a representative for Starlink. So I ask today that Commissioner Anderson stand down from any decisions with the communications that's going to happen today, because he has declared that he is a representative for the Starlink service, and I feel that's a conflict of interest. I know my time is probably up, but the last thing I'd like to say is I emailed Joel Harrington with Radio Service Solutions regarding the communications that are in the agenda today.
Tracy. Thank you.
Okay.
Your beeper did go off. So is there anyone else on Zoom? So we'll wait just a couple more seconds and move on with the commissioner's comments. Oops. Hi, Pat. Did you wish to speak, Pat? You came on and then you went off again. I'll wait a second and see if you come back.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Zoller. I'm on my cell phone. I don't know how to work the
Okay.
controls. I just wanted to say I sat in on the Planning Commission meeting workshop yesterday in person, and I sat in on the one in February on Zoom. They're reviewing the critical areas draft, and it's really sad actually listening to them, because in 2 sessions now that I've listened to, I really haven't heard anything about interest or concern with the purpose of the critical areas ordinance. And I just want to bring to your attention that the purpose of the critical areas ordinance is to protect critical areas, which is for the good of all of us. Things like groundwater and slide areas and things that we all need and we all need to protect. And I just come from these workshops feeling really distressed that the discussion is entirely about making sure that people who are applying for permits don't have to spend money on critical areas. And, you know, the easiest way to avoid any studies or any permits required under critical areas is to just keep your development away from them. It's really, really simple. So I just wanted to share that because it's a very sad thing to sit through these meetings. And then I also just switched topic really quickly. Of course, you know, what's going on at the jail is intolerable on a humanitarian basis. It shouldn't be happening. These are people, and it shouldn't be happening. So I really second what the previous speakers have said on that. And thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you very much, Pat. So we'll ask another time on Zoom if someone else has comment to make this morning. And I don't think we have anybody else in the room. So one more time for Zoom and then we'll move on. Oh.
Is there a paper staff?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm Sharon Carter with Senior Services. And just bring up, I have an opportunity for a staff person to attend a national conference on aging. And wanted to make sure that the Area Agency on Aging and Disabilities of Southwest Washington has offered to pay the
Okay,
expenses for that. Is
I
that?
don't think we can answer your questions
Okay.
during this session, and I hate
Oh,
to
okay.
say that to you. We're kind of tied to taking comment,
Okay.
and then we have to answer the comment. But coming into regular session, we can hear your
Can do that.
request. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I would recommend waiting until citizen comment is over and responses are
And then-
over. And
Yeah.
Okay,
Then
yeah.
we'll-
The board
let's just
chair
begin,
can
because I know you're being patient.
Pop it.
see
Okay.
And
you
have work.
before the next scheduled item.
Yeah.
Okay,
We used to do it in years past.
yeah, so that's where I was.
Just
We
trying
also
to be a
used
little
to not
clean.
have so much public
Yeah,
comment.
so I'll wait.
Yeah, and it was a little lengthy today, but
Okay.
thank you for being patient. So if there's no one else on Zoom, we'll move on to commissioner comments. Seeing none, Mr. Christopher, would you like to start?
I went first last week. I would
Oh,
prefer to
you're
go second
keeping
this
track.
week.
Okay. Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Mattson and Mr. Peterson, I'm signed up for a solar workshop this afternoon at 2 o'clock for the PEIS. I think that's what it's called. Is what you guys are working on part of that as well? Or is that just for the onshore, offshore?
The programmatic environmental impact statement for solar. I'm 99% sure that's with Department of Ecology.
Okay,
Yeah. they're-
okay. So Commerce isn't having anything to do with that?
We participate at a staff level, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. You said that the dollars can be used for planning. Can they potentially be used for updating either our comprehensive plan to help with, I mean, because as you can tell, solar is a very contentious issue here, and a lot of our comprehensive plan discussion is likely going to revolve around solar. Updating a comprehensive plan is, as you can imagine, very expensive and time consuming. Is that something that you guys would potentially be interested in a grant about?
Yes, I think it would qualify if clean energy is a component of that plan update, then yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Pre-development work and new stuff. Okay, those are my only questions. Thank you for that, sir.
You bet.
Mr. Anderson, if you don't mind, I would.
Yeah, go ahead. Since you
I
said
have a
that.
couple since he's here. You mentioned that you'd be maybe receiving applications from the renewable energy projects. Would we be, as a county, be notified if you did receive an application that took place within the boundaries of the county?
Hopefully I didn't say that. And just to be clear, these grants are for,
Didn't hear that.
okay, these grants are for cities, counties, port districts. So
Not for renewable projects themselves. This is for
Correct.
government wanting to put in solar projects themselves.
this is targeted toward governments that need help permitting the outside developers that are coming in.
That better explains then. I'm better understanding. you had a question on the survey. You said, yeah, you said the solar survey be coming out. We'd be seeing it in the paper. Would you be notifying county governments when that survey comes out as well? Or do we have to go check the paper?
I can make sure I send it down.
Our paper only has like 534 weekly subscriptions, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll just send what to all statewide dailies and weeklies and see who prints it or doesn't print it. But then I could send directly to your
Yeah, if
contact.
you could send something to BoCC so they can
Mhm.
notify us, we might be able to get more public engagement to your survey.
Yep, I just need to give my card to the contact person.
Yep, nope, that works.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. And that's all
Okay.
the questions I
Thank
have
you.
for these two, Madam Chair.
I can keep going.
You're good.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're off the hot seat.
Mr. Wagner, thank you for your communications as always. 4223 is the conflict of interest in which I have recused myself, which I believe Pinchot brought up from the short-term rentals discussion. So there is no issue with that. And even with that, there's a difference between a legislative action and a quasi-judicial action. I would just like the record to show there's definitely an issue. Otherwise, no legislators could ever vote on anything because it affects them in some way, shape, or form.
Did you see the chat just now? Mr. Anderson?
The what?
Check chat.
Oh, just so everybody knows, the chat has been turned on for today because we have, which is where I wanted to go next. We have an open public town hall this evening, and that is at 7:00 PM on the same thing that you logged into today. And so I would urge everyone to be involved in that. I would also like to note that there are things that we cannot speak about. Things that we are either in litigation currently or potential litigation or the very much likelihood of potential litigation, which are usually the things that people want to talk about. But you have to understand as citizens, anything that we say is recorded. Anything that we say could be used in a court of law. Anything we say could add liability to the county, thus speaking to the things that you're talking about today, which are the potential costs to the county. We have to be very careful about what we talk about. With that statement, I can say that I, at least personally, am very concerned about the same things you are concerned about with regards to the jail, with regards to the litigation that we're currently involved. We're the ones that have to find a way to pay for a lot of this litigation. And whether we pay right now up front or we pay or the insurance company pays, in the end, we as citizens pay. So there's a lot of things that I would love to discuss and talk about. I just can't. And I can't for the reason because I'm trying to protect the county, which is what we're up here to do. With that, I wish I could respond to some of these things. Miss McCune, I am not a representative of Starlink. If you've ever tried to work with Starlink, you can't get in touch with anyone who's a representative of Starlink. You can't even get somebody on the phone. I will go back and review that video because I think if anything, what I was speaking about is that CenturyLink was given CAF $2, which were federal communications dollars. Those we're talking back in from 2017, 2016 to 2021 when you're bringing up. And CenturyLink was given a lot of money to provide broadband throughout Klickitat County. That was a competitive advantage they got. And all they did was provide DSL service, which we all know is inadequate in today's current shape and form. I was mentioning that fiber to the home and fiber to the network or, to the premises is expensive. It is very, very expensive. We have been working with economic development. I've been a part of it for years to try to get companies to go for whether BEAD dollars or federal dollars or commerce dollars in order to provide fiber to the home. We currently have one large project in the Klickitat or Goldendale Centerville area That's a grant loan package from one of the local companies to provide fiber to the home. We've been working with another company that is looking to go out for grants that is currently in the process of getting a franchise agreement. And we have another local company that has a lot of subscribers that is looking to expand in the Snowden, White Salmon, Lyle area. There is a lot of really great things going on with broadband for those that are in the hinterlands where you're never going to be able to make it penciled to take fiber 3 miles from the nearest house. There is other options such as Starlink or the other satellite providers. There is also the options that a lot of people are using as hotspots with the phone companies. There are very few places in Klickitat County that cannot in some shape or form have broadband access at this point, actual broadband access. The broadband services that are offered in the county has increased and has increased in multitude of ways over the last few years. And I think we should all be very happy and thankful for that. And then with Pat, thank you for coming to the Planning Commission meeting, and thank you for always being a part of planning in Klickitat County. With that, I think I've done enough damage. I'll yield back my time, Madam Chair.
Good. Mr. Christopher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's see. Where to start? I guess I'll start with the hot topic in the room, and that is the jail. And I can absolutely tell everybody that commented about the jail that I share your concerns and that I believe we should be protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the inmates in the jail. Where we go from here is, I think, the question. I would hope that there is a state investigation or an outside investigation, because we learn from such things. We learn and we can shift and adjust policy, be it at the board or at the sheriff's office, to make ourselves better, and we can all stand to learn. I would also hope that in this one might stomp on a few toes, but I would hope that in such, if there is evidence of malfeasance or inhumane treatment or anything else that is a violation of the law, that the prosecutor would bring charges against whoever that individual was, because we all deserve to be protected, even at our most vulnerable. So that's about all I have to say on that one. Frequency of workshops. I would say we do workshops when we have work to do. That's not every week, but I would also say that if you probably watch today's video, we might be done at, say, 1:30, 2 o'clock. And we do have a workshop this week, but it's only 2 hours. So technically it could get slotted in on the afternoon this afternoon. But when there's work to do, I am more than willing to do a workshop. To Pat, I guess I'll just say thank you for your insight. I appreciate hearing your perspective. It helps me. Sherry, the under canvas litigation. As you know, I voted to drop that litigation. If the board ever decides to have a second vote, we will then change the board's way of going forward. Broadband. I agree with Commissioner Anderson on broadband. We're working on as many avenues and fronts as we possibly can. I just had a meeting with Senator Cantwell's office, who's very interested in broadband in rural areas. especially in Bickleton, after they just got done with the Newell Road fire and they could not, the residents out there were not getting emergency notifications. They couldn't get on the internet. Their phone service sucked. So we're trying to come up with ways to get broadband companies interested in putting in that last mile connection and or getting the phone company interested in upgrading their systems. Unfortunately, out there on the county level, they're just not interested. So some of the ideas that I've had with Senator Cantwell's office is when they do these grants going forward, if they're really worried about these communities of 500, say Bickleton, Snowden, things like that, they need to put wordage in their grant applications that only qualify for those areas. And then people or businesses might actually want to do that. They're just not getting enough bang for their buck. But I would say multiple commissioners are working on this. It is absolutely much better than it was when we took office. But yes, there's a long road to hoe. Now to the interesting stuff. Mr. Wagner, when you say we need to direct the code compliance officer to make Commissioner Anderson comply, I agree with you. I don't believe anybody should be above what other people have to do. If other people are being fined or prosecuted for code compliance violations or nuisance violations, then everybody should, and I don't care what your last name is. That has not always been the case in this county, but I would like to see that the case. Now, I am aware that the prosecutor may have a different opinion on whether he finds it viable to prosecute, but I believe staff should be directing our employee to file the papers, and then it's up to the prosecutor whether he wants to actually go to court on it or not. But we can't even question whether there is something over there because we won't force our employee to do, and the employee is between a rock and a hard place. I mean, come on, they got 3 bosses and one of their bosses is this. So unless they have clear guidance from the board, I feel their pain. But anyway, you know where I stand on that. This is where I've always stood. Short-term rental and what avenues do we have going forward? As far as I'm concerned, we don't, and not currently. But we do have one commissioner that's recused themselves for obvious reasons because they have a short-term rental. The reason I chose to not move forward on this topic was because I was not going to get involved in what I find is a moral and ethical conflict. So unbeknownst to most of you, because it wasn't in the minutes and it was during an unrecorded workshop, there was conversation on short-term rentals from this board, of which when I was chair, I tried to get Commissioner Anderson to not be a part of those conversations. And the board, Commissioner Zoller, said she wanted to know what Commissioner Anderson had to say. I removed myself from chair and went and sat in the audience because I did not want to be involved in what I believe is a moral and ethical conflict of interest. Now, that was December 7th, sorry. When the minutes came out, that whole situation was removed from the minutes, wasn't in the minutes. I made a statement on a Tuesday workshop that I believe that needs to be a part of the minutes. That was an important topic that should be in the minutes. It was heavily edited and put in the minutes for the December 7th meeting. I disagreed with what was written in those minutes, so I voted no on those minutes. I feel that short-term rentals has been tainted, and I do not want to participate in something that I feel has been tainted. Going down the road, can we have the discussion later, or with a new board, or if I'm replaced, I guarantee you the discussion will continue at some point. But right now, with the way that was all handled, I do not want my name anywhere near it. And I don't want to be seen signing something that looks like it's giving preferential treatment. So that's what's happening with short-term rentals. And that is, you have one commissioner recused. You have, I believe, not speaking for Commissioner Zoller, but I believe she would like to move forward, and I do not want to move forward. So that's where we are with that. Broadband, town hall. I'm just going through all my notes. With that, I might have missed somebody, and if I did, I'm sorry. Feel free to email me or call me, and I will always have an open and frank discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher. First, Department of Commerce, thank you for coming in today. And I'm thankful you're here. I'm sure you've made time with staff that you need to meet with today, possibly. Yeah, you looked at each other, so we're good there. That's what I was looking for. In regards to Mr. Wagner and the solar, I believe we're all on the same page and we all understand we need extensive planning, especially for sensitive siding. And as we move forward into corrections and updates to our documents before we approach any large scale solar. So for Department of Commerce, I am thankful they're in the room because, as you know, we have a bleeding budget. And if there's money to be offered to help us produce some of those projects, I'm thankful for that. So that money is not going to solar companies. That's going for us to create good documents if we apply. I'm going to trim through this a little bit in essence of time here. I want to thank everybody that called in about mental health, Rita, and everyone's comments, Leslie, in regards to the jail. And I have to agree with Mr. Anderson's comments about the legalities of how we work. And there is a separation with us as elected, but I want to make sure that the public knows that is not an excuse for the commissioners. We are engaged, we are involved, we have specific things that we can do, and we need to carefully work through those legally. But I can tell you also, we are engaged on a very deep human and emotional level with the situation. We are people too, and we have our feelings, and we have to make sure we keep those canned, knowing what's right and wrong as humans, but also moving forward as commissioners to do what's right for this county. But no, we're there, and we will be moving forward. I'm going to skip some of my things. I'm going to combine a few of them today. Tracy, I wanted you to know I did look at the paperwork you dropped off, and it was confusing to me again because we've talked before about the county mapping program and the Google mapping program. And when I looked at the paperwork you turned in, it did have the county mapping program, and I looked it up and compared it. And the 421 that you were noting is not on the county map, and it seemed to be imposed on that map in some way that you printed and given to us. And it looked like that portion of it may have come from Google. And those two are incredibly different work documents. So I think it stands the way it is, the addressing, and does not belong to the county commissioners. And we'll just have to keep working through that, but there's nothing we can do for that for you. And the planning maps that are on the internet do have a caveat again that say for planning purposes only. They are not set in stone. They are not certified, but they're for planning purposes. You can look something up quickly and find it if you knew for planning purposes. I'm going to just tell Pat, thank you very much. I always appreciate you, but I'm going to move on to questions about work situations for the county commissioners. Greg, I do have an idea on the short-term rentals. I have not dropped that. I want you to know I will be getting with George. I think I can come to some resolve out of this. And if I do, I'll be putting a packet together that I get out to answer some of your questions. The commissioners with workshops. We're 3 commissioners. We are a board of 3, and we're supposed to work as a board of 3. It has been a frustrating ride for me. I think I hear the word "I" too much, and I think I hear opinions too much. I think there are a lot of misinterpretations, misunderstandings, uneducated speaking that goes out to the public, that set things in motion where the public comes back to us and expects us to work on them and move forward. And a lot of times we can't even do what's happening that is said could happen. And I hope this is making sense that all that kind of got out there a little bit. I would love to have more workshops. I would have a workshop every Thursday, and I think we need it because I feel like I spend 80% of my time being how things work. And I'd like to get that set in stone between the commissioners at least, so that we can, in an educated way, speak to the public and work on issues. And I hope that happens in the future, especially for litigation, for land use planning, for code compliance. All of those things are circulating around with misnomers and misrepresentations. And it makes it a very hard working situations when you have to go back and explain things and then you can't get them done. So moving forward with that, I think I will step down and we will move on out of public comment to Mr. Anderson.
Would just like to respond since it's been very much brought up towards me. One of the things that was brought up is dropping litigation.
Yeah.
And it was brought up, and I'm sorry, I missed it in my list, but you can walk away from litigation if you are in your legislative capacity, because that is something that you, the board, are working on from that legislative action, and you have that ability. It is a completely different position to walk away from a lawsuit if you or staff or a hearings examiner were operating in a quasi judicial fashion. I think that is something that one of my seatmates has maybe not quite understood fully. The prosecuting attorney's job is to represent the county. And in said lawsuit, it is the citizens who are suing the county, and it is the county prosecuting attorney's job to represent the county. You can't walk away from that. That would be a dereliction of duty. And so I just want to make that very clear. When we walked away from the Houston sub-area plan update, that was a legislative action which went through the Planning Commission, which went through the Board of County Commissioners. And then at some point it was pulled. That is something you can do through that lawsuit process. That is a completely different process. With regards to the meeting on the 5th, which I'm trying to go back to, Commissioner Christopher did step down. We were not talking about short-term rentals. We were talking about the Title 12 road standards, in which Commissioner Christopher asked for short-term rentals to be put in there. And I believe Commissioner Zoller can speak to
That's
that.
correct. And that's why I let the conversation go forward.
And that is why it went forward. We were talking about road standards in the county. We were not talking about the short-term rental ordinance. I have left the room when we are talking about the short-term rental ordinance. I will say that I am probably the largest fan in the county of hoping that there's a short-term rental ordinance so that people could quit bringing it up and trying to use it as a political hammer against their opponents. There's probably no one who would love it more if we were to pass one than me. I've been an advocate for it prior to me being a county commissioner. So I just want to throw that out there, that things may be a little misconstrued at the board. But again, this isn't about me. And I would ask that the people that are responding remember that when you're talking to the board and giving public comment, you are talking to the board. It is not for you to attack individuals, because that then creates contention potentially amongst the board, like we're seeing right now. When you're speaking and providing public comment, make sure it's about county business, about things that we can do. It's not about the individual, the person, or anything else. Just like we don't try to talk about individuals about how we think or feel about you. It's inappropriate. We all try to be professional and respectful up here. But our feelings do get a little hot at times.
Madam Chair, you allowed rebuttal. Can I have 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
I would say that conversation was about short-term rentals. It was not about roads in Bickleton. It was a 10, 12-minute conversation about all things short-term rentals. So baloney. That's all I have to say.
And again, So I will move forward from that as a board and we will close public session and move on. Payroll warrant and certification.
Consent agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry, passed that one. I thought we did it. It came.
Yeah, I started it early, you started it late.
Okay,
We'll get it done one way or the other. Madam Chair, I move that we pass the consent agenda with 14 items.
I will second the motion.
motion and a second. All those in favor? Or
Aye.
any discussion? Sorry.
Sorry, no discussion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Payroll warrants.
Madam Chair, I move that we pay the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $773,706.79 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 for the date ending March 18th, 2024.
I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Payroll warrant certification process passes. A department update from Planning Director, Mr. Edelman. Oh, would you mind, Sharon had an issue, would you?
I can, oh, please,
Are-
no. I love Jesse.
I would recommend we take Sharon quickly.
Yeah,
I
it should
would-
be fast.
Come on, Sharon, I know you're quick. And I looked up, I didn't see it, so I looked up and saw you, and that's okay, Sharon, sometimes that happens,
Okay.
and we all need to go back to work, so.
Well, I just, the Area Agency on Aging and Disabilities of Southwest Washington had offered to pay for a staff person. My operations manager, I'd like to go to the National Conference on Aging in Virginia. And I obviously don't have a budget to accommodate that type of conference and trip. So they have said that they would pay all the costs associated with that. Obviously, it would be my staff's hourly, you know, they're a salary exempt employee, so it's not an issue in terms of our budget, but they're going to cover all the travel costs. And I just wanted to make sure that the board was okay with that, having a staff person participate in that conference in Virginia. There's an opportunity for some congressional advocacy also, which is important with our different programs. And so we have not attended a lot of these, but would really like to be able to participate if that, and wanted to make sure that was acceptable.
They're a great board, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm glad that they can attend. I understand our budget shortfalls, and if you can thank the Area on Aging on our behalf, you at least got it on my behalf.
Okay, great.
So
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry for making you wait.
Yeah,
No, sorry for stepping in. I didn't realize we didn't comment. Right.
thank you.
I don't think public
Thanks.
comments ever went so long.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Comfort. Thank you for sharing.
Of course. Morning, Chair Zoller, Mr. Christopher. It's
Morning.
nice to see you in the room. Started my third week on the job. It's a little tough sometimes to keep the energy up following public comment. I highly value public comment and appreciate everybody who takes their time. But I know often when people take their time, it's because they have an issue. It's hard to take time out of your day, whether out of your work or personal life, to get on to say something that's just positive. You know, who's going to come on and do that? So I know that we start off that way. So I just want to start off saying I couldn't be happier to be here. I think we have so much more in common than we have different, and that includes everybody in the room and on the phone, I think. And one of those things is we live in a beautiful place, or in my case, will live in a beautiful place. So I want to thank you again for this opportunity. I'll pass out. I'll try not to pass out.
it made me jump when he says I'm gonna pass out and jumps up too. I'm like, uh-oh.
Thank you so much.
So the first thing I want to talk about was Planning Commission, which is I'm glad because I wanted to address what Pat Arnold spoke about. I appreciate her being there last night, gave up a couple hours of her time, even participated a little bit, gave us some good pointers. And I always appreciate public input, whether I agree with it or not, or it's a different perspective. It always helps us get a good outside understanding of how people view things that we do. I do disagree, and I want to just give a different perspective on where I think the Planning Commission is with the critical areas ordinance. Ms. Arnold had mentioned that we didn't really address the purpose. I think part of that is, that when you look at the existing critical areas ordinance versus the proposed as it's drafted, the purpose statement is much more specific. It's very highly focused on protecting these critical areas. With the very final statement, allow for reasonable use of all properties. That's the only thing it says in the purpose statement about protecting private property rights or keeping unreasonable development expectations out. The rest is prevent degradation, conserve and protect critical areas, the type of things you'd expect. To me, my perspective is the Planning Commission has bought off on that. They're not proposing to change that. They've gone through the purpose statement. And so we're moving forward with that as the basis. Just because we don't talk about that each time doesn't mean that's not in the back of their minds. And the conversation it was brought up regularly. We need to do what we can to protect these areas. But I think that the key is also that it is a work session. You roll up your sleeves, you're looking at the details of the plan. And I've dealt with a lot of plans that have been produced by consultants, and this is not the consultant I think did a great job. But what consultants do and expertise, they will put everything on the table. They will say, okay, here's, unless checked, here's all the possible tools you can have to reach this goal of protecting these critical areas. And so when you look at the existing ordinance versus the proposed, there's a whole lot more in the proposed that isn't being done now, isn't expected to be done. That will be a lot more burden put on property owners, will be a lot more burden put on county staff. So if you just accept it as it is, we are already doing everything we can to protect these areas, and the focus is on that. So the goal is to look at it and make sure, is everything that we're requiring actually necessary? Or are there places that we are requiring an overly burdensome burden on possibly the department, but I think more importantly, the property owners. Just for an example, you have here's a side-by-side we put together, process for critical areas review. That's the existing. Here's the new process being proposed. And it goes on to the next page. Critical areas report. The existing requirements for critical areas report are, for those who can't see, they're blank. There's nothing. The new critical areas report is 2 pages of stuff. So we are putting a lot more in this plan. So just by doing that, so that's where I disagree, is I think it's what you're looking at as the starting point. We're starting with everything on the table. And it's in that our goal, I think part of our goal is to look where we can scale it back while still protecting the areas. I think a really important one, just for an example, I know I'm taking a lot of time on this, but I thought it was an important comment to address. When you're making the initial determination, not the decision on what mitigation needs to happen, but the determination of if there is an impact at all, if there's a potential impact, but it's not significant, or if there is a potential significant impact. There is a section there that gives the planning director the ability to require additional professional studies to be done. It doesn't say for what purpose. Later on, if it's determined that there is a potential impact, there's another opportunity to provide the studies that would then lead to a mitigation plan. Leaving that open could put me in a position where I could make somebody do all the things they'd be required to do as if there was a major impact, only to determine, oh, there's no major impact after all. So one thing the Planning Commission did last night was say, well, let's make sure that is specific, that if it's asked for, it's specifically to make that initial determination. And so that limits the power of the planning director to be overly burdensome. So those are the kind of things they're looking at. And I just disagree. I feel like they were very much looking at protecting the critical areas, but also with a mind toward doing what, not the minimal, but only doing what was necessary to protect those areas without putting over burdensome. And the other aspect is staff. I don't want to put staff time ahead of the more important aspects of property owner rights and critical areas. But if we put something out there that is just undoable, we're not going to be successful at all. So if we need to cut off some things that are less important and focus on the more important things, I think that's something that is definitely worth considering. And this is going to result in however this goes from here, a much more robust critical areas program. They'll have more protections, and it will undoubtedly be more burdensome to the citizens. So it's definitely going that way. And that's why I talk about the pulling back isn't, to me, only focusing on property rights. It's checking to see if what we're doing is legitimate and defensible. But I thought the meeting went very well. We got through chapters 1 and 2. Next meeting, we're going to be moving on to the chapter 3, which is wetlands, and keep moving forward. Next planning commission meeting, also the Port of Klickitat, the Bingen Point Shoreline Substantial Development Permit is up for a hearing. And then in May 20th, the Wilson Monroe rezone. And I wanted to clarify something. We got some assistance from David and Rebecca in the PA's office, as well as Lori, clarifying our process. We told you that we're going to be bringing a SEPA appeal to you, the Snowden SEPA appeal. The clarification is that based on clarification of process, I think just last year, we will be bringing that to you along with the rezone itself. So you'll get the rezone and the appeal at the same time. So we're in the process now of scheduling the rezone for May 20th, and we'll be communicating with the Snowden Community Council about that. I noticed on their website that they said the county still has not yet responded, so we'll make sure we get that taken care of. Board of Adjustments meets April 1st, the Rummel Lambert conditional use permit. This is the one that was resubmitted based on the Title 12 changes for the traffic study. Priorities coming up, along with just getting through a backlog of things that have been built up in the department, and everyone's working really hard. The James Dean aggregate, we're going to be reaching out to the applicant, and we're determining the process moving forward with that project. Of course, the Wilson Monroe rezone review, we're going to be starting that very soon to be prepared for the May meeting. And then we're doing the routing of the Smith RV Park proposal. Then you see we have another number of other pending projects. I won't go through all those things that are on our radar, but the most important one, I think, is the comprehensive plan update, because there are a lot of the items that keep coming up, such as solar policy, that is tied to that plan. And I don't want to, some ways it makes sense just to get through critical areas ordinance, get through shoreline management plan, and then start that. But there are things we can, I think with planning commission time, we do need to get through some of those things. But for staff time, we can start working ahead of time and trying to get a plan together, maybe even try to get some community input going. So I would like to get started on that so that we're not, it's going to take a couple of years anyway, so that we're not starting in a couple of years to do something that'll take a couple of years. That's all I have for you this morning. Is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for your update. I personally, you have a thumbs up from me and approval to start working on the comp plan. And issues that we know are going to arise, because they could help you as you're going through the CAO or the SMP or anything else. You might run into those questions. And I hope you have a thumbs up from the rest of the board to actually start the planning part of the comp plan. So you have my support on it. Thank you.
Thank you as a director coming in with the burden you have for identifying that. I really appreciate that you picked that out as a priority, because that is important.
Wow, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Question. So we had Department of Commerce come in talking about, we know that it's going to be a large part. They've got grant dollars available. I would love if we could bring some grant dollars in that would help us for our comp plan update or any planning updates, which I believe we used to get commerce dollars to do some of these projects. So if there's a potential that we could bring in some grant dollars to either leverage staff time, which again helps the bottom line of the budget, or potentially if you see the need for bringing in outside consultants to help you with comp plan stuff right now, maybe historical document reviews or anything like that. Let's not leave dollars on the table when they're potentially out there that could help us.
Thank you. I was glad you asked that question, because I didn't realize from the presentation that the funds could be available for the comp plan or some of those other planning efforts.
Why I wanted to make sure, because if it's available, and more importantly though, for the public record, just because they're available, let's also be very careful about the strings that are attached to the grant dollars to make sure we're not putting ourselves in a box.
Okay.
But if you need any help with those grant documents or applying for those, please reach out to me, or Jeff's really good at them too.
Jeff's already been very helpful. Thank you.
And Jen.
May I ask one question? I know fully that any direction I receive as far as the comp plan goes will come from the full board, but I would very much welcome individual conversations just to bounce ideas. I know it wouldn't be anything formal, but ideas you have about process, how to reach out to people. I would come back with a plan to the full board with anything that came, but I would appreciate some of those conversations.
Great. And I think Elise has contacts for the Department of Commerce people if you didn't get them.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Mr. King.
No, I
No?
think we've got.
Want to skip?
Thanks, sir.
It was,
We've got Public Works, but then we've got the proclamation. Did you want to do the proclamation first?
we're behind on time. Where would you like to go? We could do the how long will it take?
Was Jeff gonna do the proclamation? Bring forward the proclamation? King? The proclamation?
The proclamations was from the Board of County Commissioners
Okay.
to the essential
Okay.
employees of county.
Is that what you're here for, Mr. King? Okay,
He's got-
we're gonna
he's
set
later.
that back. We're,
Let's push that
Let's-
back to this afternoon.
come up.
Oh, he's just.
Are you, he's the new Rob.
If he-
Please.
Thank you very much.
Starline? Yeah. I'm not a representative.
Oh. I can't get in touch with anybody, so
No, that's true.
if you were, it'd be a good thing. I think so.
You better recuse yourself from all.
Yeah, you better be careful. Okay, we'll get started real quick. I'll admit I didn't hear the consent agenda. I assume it all got passed. Okay, Lisa gives me the heads up, so we'll move right into our pay estimate for Diatley Crushing at $568,552.93. That's just a portion of it for the Fisher Hill or the Badger Gulch Crushing. At that, I think we'll keep moving forward. So we'll turn it over to Seth for for the updates on some of the other items.
Not a lot has changed since last week's update. We're still crushing in the Matson quarry. Annual striping, we're waiting for contracts to be returned from the contractor. Road design, Sunday Old 8, the bids will be open this afternoon. Liquid asphalt bids will be open this afternoon as well. Data collection, sounds like the contractor, the consultant is complete with their work and ready for our review. So we'll be looking into it this week to see what we've been presented. Bridge repair bundles, we're working through the award process for the consultant and other preliminary work continues.
Okay, on the maintenance side, we're repairing a cattle guard that got damaged during plowing. And we're starting on East Road culvert replacement in preparation of our paving project that should start sometime in May. Our federally funded paving project. West End, we're doing some grading, some brooming of sand and hauling gravel. On the upcoming facilities project, roofers are here. Were here yesterday. They're here today, finishing up the punch list items on the jail. Superior Court, 2 small work contracts, open bid on March 27th. Work is scheduled to begin on April 5th. We're still on schedule. Court will be closed during that time for the first month. Events, Fire on the Mountain starts this Thursday and runs through Sunday. Fuel Island, we're still chugging ahead on that. Auditors, remaining floor covering installation will happen this Saturday. The plumber is there this week, and we're still scheduled to finish by the end of March. HVAC contract was awarded at the board. Jail washer, the washer was installed last week. I didn't realize the soap dispenser is actually somebody else. What do you know? We specialize in even soap dispensers these days. So the soap dispenser is hooked up by a different group that cannot be hooked up by the washer guy.
If you one union can't do the other unions, there's a
Thanks.
soap dispenser union.
I think so. So
Interesting.
learn something new every day. Sadis Pass camera still scheduled for Monday. Some follow-up things real quick. Dallasport Community Group reached out to me yesterday, and they're planning on having a cleanup. A lot of the other communities are done that.
which is a very good thing for the county. Lyle does it, Goldendale just started. White Salmon did it. Of course, their question is how could Public Works help us do the cleanup? I said, okay, well, I said, who do you want the same level of? Well, like Lyle. Well, we don't do anything for Lyle. Okay, maybe not then. Okay, Klickitat, they use our site. That's all we do. I said, the only one we really do anything for right now is White Salmon. And we load stuff in, but in Klickitat, they get the walk-in dumpsters. That's what they're gonna get there. So I said, you really don't need us there. But they asked if they could use the community center as a bath there, because they're staging on DNR property, which is the old school. That'll give them more room. They worked it out with DNR. Because their community cleanup is May 17th and May 18th. They asked, well, could you get us Santa cans? And I'm like, okay, again, I can't just go out and give you guys our Santa cans because they're owned by road. And that means I have to charge the general fund road. I mean, Buildings and Grounds does, but before we do that, I always get permission. We always talk to the board about those kinds of things. I'm not saying it would be a big deal to, let you, but I said, we have one Santa can that sits on a trailer. I mean, other than that, you're talking about somebody calling and having it delivered, which there is a cost to that. They're like, well, we could use the community center. I said, again, I could talk to the board about waiving the fees. I said I would have no problem recommending that as long as you guys clean the bathrooms, as long as there's not a paying event that comes in during that time, because that's our rules. Anybody that we waive the fees for, it's $25 there. We give first preference to the paying events. But with that said, so our options are we either rent Santa cans or we open the community center, and I don't know that there'll be an event that weekend or not. I mean, we won't know. It could happen. It may not.
Go ahead.
So I guess I'm kicking.
I do have some concerns about loaning your Santa can that's on a trailer, because if somebody's climbing up and down off a trailer and they slip and fall and break a hip, now they're suing us because they slipped off our trailer.
Exactly.
Use of the community center is fine with me. I'm even fine with allowing them to literally schedule it, put it on hold for them, even if there is a paying event that comes in later. It's for a good cause. And so I'm fine with community center and just doing it that way. It seems like the most convenient way. And then side note, Goldendale cleanup, I have nothing for Public Works, so you're off the hook again, sir.
Thank you.
I'm sure they'll do it, but if you use the community center, make sure one of the members monitors the center and stays with it, just not a wide open building.
Yes, we did talk about that, and I told them you have to clean it. Now, if I send somebody down there, that's a completely different ball.
Okay.
But I said I'd get the board taken, and sounds like
I have no problem using the community center. I have no problem with people stepping up and using the can. I mean, the can sits on a trailer. All our people do it. You do it everywhere. So if the community center gets rented, drive it down there.
Okay.
Okay. So we filled our equipment supervisor position, and we like to promote people from within. So one of our foremen from the west side is now our equipment supervisor. So we would like to backfill the foreman's position, and we'll do that from within. But at that time, we'd also like to backfill that position. So what I'd like to do is go out for the inevitable the group's position and do internally for the foreman position. And we will have a conversation here very shortly on how many positions we have open. That's okay with the board.
Yes.
I have no problem as long as it's like in order and you're not posting before yeah, you'll do it fine, yeah.
Well, thank you. One more thing, and I don't think we'll find them. We typically hire flaggers. Again, we keep it in the budget. We have not been able to find anybody.
Mm.
But we would again like to go out for flaggers. It's usually a good thing because we try to hire local people that are either coming from college or, or even once they're 18, they can flag. We have the ability to train our own flaggers because we have somebody that's what they do.
Do you reach out to the local schools to see if they have people coming out of high school that might be interested in a career in public works and to start with flagging, and we'll train you? And do the kids coming out of high school know this is even available for them?
We have reached out. We haven't in the last couple of years because we haven't really been that successful, but we will try it again. We do have a very successful story because we used to get a lot of our interns that way. Matter of fact, the guy that wrote a lot of the Title 12 standards, we hired right out of high school. He worked for us since high school.
That's kind of where I'm going with this, but I also know of one flagger that lives in the community that is not fresh out of high school that already has his credentials and may be interested in a job. So please post it and
We will.
You might see a few.
Yeah, and if you know somebody, please tell them to apply. Word of mouth is the way we get most of our people. And I think that's all we have.
Go ahead, Jim.
If I may, Trout Lake Campground, thank you for sending along how much money we're losing on it. I've talked with at least one of the raft companies, and they are looking for places for their people to stay. And if there's a possibility, they might do it for much cheaper than what we were paying the last ones. I also had a community member of Trout Lake reach out who might be interested in taking it over as well, so that the money that's being saved or not spent could then be reinvested back into it. So that's a possibility. I will send you their contact info. but I just wanted
Okay,
to let you-
and then maybe we go out to ad for one and not and just say we're looking for a volunteer host, and then if we get nothing, then we would,
start ratcheting it up.
yes, if that's okay with the board. we
I would
do
hate
it.
to start up here when we
Right.
could have got it down here. And once you put it out there, that's what people.
No, and it seems like there's, again, we've had, and this is not a shot at the previous board, we have board members that have different connections that we don't have. Because we've tried it in the past and we got nobody. And the reason we started, they paid for it long before I got here. They had a host that they paid and really paid full-time salary to.
Really?
Yeah, it was, well, I'm not gonna go to that. And then after that person left, then we looked for a host. We couldn't find that we weren't, and we got the same, well, if you'd pay somebody. So then we, as you saw through the spreadsheet, then we went out and got Hoodoo.
Yeah.
And Hoodoo pays everybody. We didn't have as much expense, but as you saw, we got no money either. So we still lost, but we will try it that way.
Whoa. Yeah. Did you get to email, were you able to open the email about the Cascade Locks
Yes, I was.
Campground
Thank
and
you.
those prices?
Those were high.
Whew. Sorry, tonight's been to camp.
Yeah, a little bit more elaborate, but still very expensive.
Yeah. I don't know if it got forwarded to you guys or not.
No, I didn't see that one.
I sent it to BoCC, but
That's
they were having a hard time opening it. Did you get the campground costs?
Yeah, no, I read the article and it, while it seems high to me, cause I don't like campgrounds. I tend to either park an RV or pitch a tent next to a creek in the backwoods where there's nobody around me. It sounds like they were doing comparables and that was semi-comparable.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was like $75 a head.
Yes, it
And
was, yes,
I
75.
guess my point is, I understand that the campground provides economic development to Trout Lake. Sure, get it, fine. I'm okay. I understand that. The hard part for me is telling grandma who lives in a single wide trailer down on South Columbus that we're gonna take her property taxes, that she already can't afford her damn monthly space rent, to subsidize somebody that's got $100,000 RV so he can go camping at Trout Lake Park. That's hard for me to get behind. It needs to be self-sufficient. And hopefully this board, I've been preaching it for 3 years, hopefully eventually we get.
Okay,
Good.
thank you. We'll see everybody at 1 or 1:30 whenever we're on.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Thanks, guys.
Keep them organized. Would we like to back up and do the proclamation? Where are we?
Actually, can we do what we had put on for the discussion about tonight's meeting so I can get this email sent and to get it off?
Okay.
So for tonight's meeting, trying to set up the rules, for what we will, I think this morning was a prime example of what we can expect to have, that kind of question answer. And so things that we probably shouldn't discuss that are in litigation, under canvas, the jail death, or potential, and then the inmate at KVH. I think we could potentially talk about the jail as a whole, but we definitely should not talk about that in specifics. How does my seatmates feel?
Mr. Christopher.
Y'all can make whatever rules about what we're allowed to talk about, or how we must answer whatever questions you want. I will say that if I'm asked a question that I think I can answer, I will be answering it. And if the chair wants to remove my ability to answer, then the chair can do so.
Sir, that's not what we're talking about. This is for the moderator to what questions that they will bring forward versus because the moderator is expected to pull out anything that is a political of nature that's asking for something that is not dealing with the county business. That's, asking about how you feel about, a federal issue or something that we have no control over, trying to keep it, germane to county business.
I understand, but during citizen comment, we don't have rules on what the people can ask, so I don't know why we would in town hall. I guess that's where I'm going. They can address us during citizen comment. They can chastise our audience members. That's the rules of the board. Why would we have it any different for a town hall?
If that was the case, there'd be no need for a moderator. I mean, this is a normal how town halls are run, where you have a moderator who asks, who facilitates, creates the topics, then asks questions based on that. So, Commissioner Zoller, do you have any thoughts?
I think you have people prepared to come this evening already, seeing it's a forum where they'd like to express some of those things. I think for me, what's important is the responses from the county commissioner. Knowing maybe the moderator could allow them to speak on the issue, but knowing that there'd be no response on some of those issues because we should not and cannot legally. And that could be stated by the moderator possibly. Would that mitigate that for you? Would that help?
So the idea is that that's why we have the chat feature turned on.
Okay.
Is so that they would type their questions in chat.
Okay.
The moderator would, create topics based on the questions and then kind of create a flow of discussion, between the moderator and the
I see where you're
commissioners
going.
based on that. And so it's, usually when you do a town hall, you have, we're going to do a town hall on topic A and topic B. We'll spend 20 minutes on this, 20 minutes on that. That's how you usually do it. We had this discussion internally on whether we wanted to do that or whether we wanted to open it up. And so the idea from our conversations is, well, it's the first one, let's open it up and let's see what people bring.
Right.
So the moderator takes those, and that's the way it was put out there the way it was. Please send BoCC topics of discussion, any potential questions you have. And then so that then it would help us create those topics. I know the moderator will, if there's a lull and there's not enough questions, because we don't know how many people will show up. It's good to hear that people are hearing about it. Then the moderator can ask some questions as well that they've come up with. So I'm trying to set it out there so that the moderator knows what they're getting into and what their expectations are. So I wanted to have that conversation. I didn't want to make an executive decision.
Okay, so yes, I think because we already advertised it's an open forum, we're going to have to field those questions this evening. And this is coming out of, I think, again, because this was, I don't want to say not thought through all the way, but it's a new thing that we're trying. Again, we're trying to resurrect town halls, getting a feel for what works for the people and how it functions for the county commissioners is important. We'd already advertised it, and we'd advertised it as an open forum. So I think we're going to have to stick with what we offered the public already. I would caution each commissioner to be very careful with what they craft for their answers. And I'd like to publicly state that we are a board of 3 and we should have a concise statement built, but we do not for some things. And if a singular commissioner answers in a way that is liability for the county or liability personally, I think we need to be careful to keep that separate so we don't go down that hurricane as a board. Mr.
Well,
Christopher.
as that may or may not have been pointed at me, I would certainly hope that as any commissioner is answering any of these questions today, they preface their answer with, I can only speak for myself, but this is what I think, and not speak for the board in general. Because the board actually might have a different opinion than said commissioner.
Correct.
And I have no problem stating my opinion. And I oftentimes am uncomfortable being lumped in with the majority of the board. So I kind of like it well known that I'm not lumped in.
Mr. Anderson, did you have?
I'm just trying to write it up. I'm having a conversation with my seatmates. People will be able to ask any questions that will have to be, our answers may be very
Limited.
muted.
Limited.
Are we directing him that each question goes to each commissioner, or each commissioner gets a chance to respond to each question? Or is he going to give Commissioner 1 this question and Commissioner 2 and 3 don't get to respond to that question?
Well, this is why I asked the question a couple of weeks ago, how we as a board would like to do it. And at the time you'd said, well, this one's yours, you figure it out. And so I wanted to have that conversation. How would you like it done?
The same way, I think the question should be given, and he can start this question goes to Commissioner number 1, then it goes to number 2 and number 3. The next question goes to number 2, then it goes to number 3, then it goes to number 1. The next question goes to number 3, then 1, then 2. That way everybody's got first chance at answering, second chance of answering, and third chance of answering as you rotate through the questions. But each commissioner could then give their honest opinion of their answer to that question, which may or may not differ from their email. They may say, nope, Commissioner Anderson hit the nail on the head with that. I don't really have much more to add. But at least they have the opportunity to agree or disagree without being lumped in as a board of 3. It may not be a board of 3 on every issue.
Questions will be, okay. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
And if you rotate through, each question starts with a new commissioner, and then nobody's always got first remark, second remark, or third remark. It rotates through.
Okay, that's good.
And the only other thing I have grave concerns on is I want to make sure that I would like it, and not that I want to make sure, but I would like it to make sure that all members of the public have an equal opportunity, and it's not taken over by 700 questions from the same handful of individuals.
So that's the purpose of the moderator, so that people will post their questions. The moderator can review those questions and then create topics, and then they might pick, there might be a question from the same person, but it might be on a topic, you know, because the questions are technically be coming from the moderator, not from the audience.
No, it will be interesting. And this was supposed to start as a Facebook Live town hall, and it's now kind of turned into an in-person town hall. So in Goldendale, there'll be Zoom, but it will be, I imagine, a room full of in-person too.
I don't think we do not advertise to open it. It's still just Zoom.
Are you guys attending here, or are you attending from Zoom at your homes?
The original thing was each of us would be on our own Zooms in front of the computers.
I imagine you're operating Zoom from here with this room being available. Are you Zooming from home, or are you Zooming from here? That's what I was expecting.
No one else is in the room. I don't expect staff to handle public. Yeah,
Okay.
she's operating.
Well, as long as there's not two commissioners present in the room, you don't have to have the room open. That is correct. No, I'm just thinking myself through because of I do have Starlink, but it is sometimes sketchy for video. That I might partake in your Zoom from this chair. And if I'm the only commissioner in the room, that's fine. We don't let the public in the room.
So the thought is we wouldn't be running this. It would be each of our computers, the screens. So you mean if you're sitting there, yeah, you could sit there, but have your camera on. But we weren't gonna have this because it would be, you know, the four of us would be on Zoom, the moderator and the three of us.
Interesting.
No, you remember we talked about, you know, the in-person
So
Zoom and
do
we
you-
set the in-person.
Right, we separate.
Or in-person.
We
Do
separate.
you need to be in the room to operate Zoom if you're just,
Are you recording it to the computer or to the web, to the cloud? Okay.
as I say, I mean, technically that should just be your screen, isn't it? Though the touchpad over there is how she's pushing buttons for that. That's an interesting scenario. Okay, because where I was going with this is, no, I was thinking if there was going to be people showing up and it was going to be a hybrid, then why have the next one here and not per se white salmon? But then that brings up the argument of don't have microphones and recording devices. And I would imagine you could still do it in white salmon. You just wouldn't be able to record it. You would just need to hear the topic and answer the question.
We
to
did
the
not
public in the room.
advertise it as a hybrid. This was an online only, just like how we did I'm rolling off the page of how the Bridge Authority does it. That's kind of where the idea came from. The hope was to have Facebook Live, but hopefully we'll also be able to mention our Facebook page tonight so that people can start liking our page so that we can do a Facebook Live in the future. We were not able to do a Facebook Live because our page wasn't alive long enough.
I will roll with however we do this, and we'll see how she goes, and then we can always have an after action kind of
Hope
a
so.
deal next
Yeah.
week and modify any
See what
future ones to,
Hmm.
since the next one is kind of, we picked the date, but we haven't really discussed a whole lot else. Hopefully we can just roll through this one and see what works, what didn't work, and then have a discussion on what we want to do next, and
and
Well,
kind
I
of
thought the
firm up
next
that.
one was in person. That was the whole point.
That was the original
For the East
discussion, but we
County.
haven't talked about any rules or order or moderator. Any of that kind of stuff, and I would like to hold that until after we go through this one, see how it works.
So that
That's
will work.
got, I got enough to send the
A
email. now.
moderator can just be on his own computer too.
Yep.
Okay.
Is he gonna be here or is he gonna be in his own office?
I would assume he's gonna be in his own office.
Mhm.
He knows that it's an online only, so. Okay, I'm ready to move on whenever.
Okay. So what would you like to pick up now?
Nope.
We did that. But we've missed the proclamation thing under commissioners.
Sorry, Jeff. You're gonna have to make it quick. I hope you're cutting it down as you're out there.
It's,
Yeah, it's ours for us to read. It's sitting right in front of you there.
You want to chair? Chair always has to read.
wait a minute, where'd that come from? That was too quick.
That was the rule when I was chairing.
Oh,
it.
yeah.
You guys made
it's
me
the
read
rule.
it before and I wasn't chair. I think, seem to remember. No, this
We
person
might
has
have
to read
asked
it.
you if you volunteered.
No. I don't mind. So I have not done this before, so I'll wing it and tell me if I'm wrong. So we have a proclamation from the Board of County Commissioners of appreciation for our essential employees in the Sheriff's Office, Emergency Management Department, and Public Works Department. Whereas recognizing all essential employees, the unsung heroes who do their jobs that keep our communities working, and their hard work at the time when their dedication is even more valued and appreciated. And whereas the understanding of the rural communities that make up most of Klickitat County require a well-trained workforce to provide necessary skills, dedication, and workmanship to local citizens. And whereas during the ongoing inclement weather, essential employees showed extraordinary courage, dedication, and commitment in the face of an unprecedented, hazardous, severe storm. And whereas these dedicated individuals endeavor daily to perform their jobs with dedication and integrity in order to protect the lives and protect and save lives and help keep communities safe. And whereas the board is exceptionally proud and has deep gratitude and recognition for their professionalism, dedication, hard work, commitment, and sacrifice. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners recognizes the many contributions of the diligent, dedicated employees of Klickitat County Sheriff, Emergency Dispatch, and the Public Works Departments committed to providing valuable services and safety measures to the many communities of Klickitat County. And now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners, the Klickitat County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim our sincere appreciation to the essential employees of Klickitat County. Thank you. And do I have to read the end of it in witness? Okay, well, thank you very much. So we will sign that for you. Mr. Anderson.
Are you ready for pay estimate, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I motion that we approve pay estimate number 1 for 2023 crushing for Fisher here. Wow. Fisher Hill Quarry, WP 54, Badger Gulch Quarry, WP 53, and Madison Quarry 44 in the amount of $598,475.77.
Would you like to say that 3 times fast?
I said it 4 times wrong.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Rock isn't cheap.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Pay estimate is approved.
To what?
Sign the top. Great.
Well, they
I
only
think
signed
we've
the
finally
top.
gotten to you, Director King.
They skipped all the rest.
Oh, we
so
did.
I'll
Yep,
sign
they
and
did.
hand them back. Jeff's just waiting for his copy. Almost ninja started.
Jeff, I think your copy of that should be gold plated for the work you did that I saw during that time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And on behalf of the emergency management staff, well, thank you as well. That was a very nice thing to do.
There wasn't a lot of sleep.
No, was not. Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Not quite. I don't have much time left, but I'm not that short. As usual, I'll start out consent agenda. You've already approved that, so thank you for those approvals. Public safety radio system. If there's anything in here you haven't read or have questions about, I did submit this by the deadline, and hopefully you've had a chance to renew it or review it. So in the interest of time, I will just say that the additions would be under the Bickleton site generator. That work is being done today as we speak. Support providers are out there making permanent repairs to that generator. The winter storm damage we've discussed at length before, and we've approved those purchases now to make the permanent repairs and the mitigation efforts to keep those failures from happening again to those two different systems. I am still waiting. The storms have caused everybody to have to reprioritize their work. So the Golgotha Butte copper grounding theft repairs that Benton County has to make have still not been done so that we can do our work. So I will ping them again soon. Cellular service provider outreach project. This is something new since we last talked. I can't remember who all I've spoken to, and it has come up a few times in conversations this morning. I am proposing the formation of a coalition to approach the cellular service providers. What I have seen over the years that I've been involved, and before Commissioner Anderson was a commissioner, him and I tried to work out this, that individuals in different capacities, commissioners, economic development, emergency management, schools, legislators have tried to approach the cell phone service providers to no success. What we've gotten recently, new providers to areas that were already served, like T-Mobile and Verizon have expanded. AT&T put a new tower in our county last year up in Sadis Pass. But the communities that are still underserved have not gotten any traction. I think if we formed a coalition that included emergency management, 911 dispatch, chairman of the board, or whoever you select from the county commissioners, and in my meetings for school safety, that new working group that we've created countywide, those superintendents have brought up the issues. So there'll be 3 superintendents talking about Glenwood, Klickitat, and Bickleton areas, and those communities and their schools. We would also have 3 fire chiefs and 3 fire board of fire commissioners representatives, the sheriff, and any other state or federal legislators that would join us. And then we could go to these cell phone service providers and lobby them to take us more seriously, as well as make the offer that in all 3 of those locations, we have the potential to give them access to radio sites in 2 of those locations and the fire hall, Klickitat, where our radio system is located, and the fire district would probably be amenable. So, not that I don't have enough on my plate, but this is a very important issue that's been neglected for many, many years, not by us, but by the providers And I think we need to take a new approach.
The FirstNet contacts there, do you see that as being possibly very productive, especially with Glenwood and
Problem there is that, what we've gotten in the past, and when the sheriff's office moved to FirstNet last year, they will bring their temporary services if we have an emergency or a pre-planned event. They'll bring colts or cows, cellular on light trucks or cellular on wheels, temporary solutions for those events or those emergency incidents. But that does not solve the problem that our community members and visitors can't call 911. And in the last 3 weeks, I believe it's been, there have been 2 motor vehicle collisions in the community of Glenwood, one just last night, in which the person couldn't call 911, either had to wait for somebody to come and pick them up or go somewhere to get to a phone to call 911 because there's no cell phone service, or very, very
not there.
definite spots. If you park in the driveway to the rodeo grounds, you can get service. If you go just south of the post office and stop in the right place, you can get service. It's touch and go. And just like people do in the town of Klickitat and Bickleton, as well as Glenwood, they use their home internet service on the Wi-Fi to make Wi-Fi calling available when they're in their homes, and even businesses in these communities open up their Wi-Fi so people in town and around those businesses can connect to the Wi-Fi and make phone calls. But as we saw during the winter storm, we lost all landline service and internet service through CenturyLink to these communities, which takes away their ability to call for help in any way whatsoever. And the people that live there are creative. They're very resilient, but we need a permanent solution to this issue. And this is something that we can do. And I'm just asking for your direction, whether you want me to dedicate time to at least poll the folks that I've listed here, if they'd be willing to participate in that coalition.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in favor. I think it could be good. I think this is essentially the same problem that I'm dealing with the representative from Cantwell's office of trying to get coverage in Bickleton. It's the same thing for Glenwood. No provider sees a big enough bang for the buck unless they give out federal grants, entitlements, whatever the heck you want to call them, that incentivate that last mile service. And only for rural communities under 500, blah, blah, blah. So I think you could see different language in federal legislation, but if you had this little working group, they may be able to address some ways that might get some federal or state legislation worded correctly to incentivize. So it could be good.
Yeah, everybody's interested now in serving underserved populations. Now that the Glenwood Valley is part of the reservation, that's another point that we can use to get some equality out there. There are several things I think if we all come together, like I said, emergency services, school superintendents, school boards, all of us, we'd have a bigger voice. And if you will allow it, offer those cell phone providers the ability to co-locate at our Diamond Gap location and our Bickleton radio site location. We have control as a 3-way partnership to some degree at Diamond Gap for that, and then we have full control at the Bickleton location. We own everything, including the ground. Sorry, those are radio system alarms. I don't silence those.
I am 100% in support of moving forward with this. Big tents get things done, and I am available anytime you need any help for getting it. You know,
We've been on this for many years.
we have. I had a lot less white hair then.
I like everybody in the room. I think you get things done quicker.
Okay. Thank you. I will move forward and see where it goes. Leases, still ongoing, working with the PUD for their expansion. Since GorgeNet changed ownership to Blue Mountain, unfortunately, I'm having even a harder time getting someone to get back to me. That lease was expired on December 31st and still has not been renewed. So I'm making more demanding statements to them to either work with us to renew that lease or get out. And I know they do not want to get out. Warjack, any any questions about my notes on Warjack and what that is and what we're trying to do? No? Okay. Because where am I on the clock? We're okay? Okay. Don't wanna go over, but Warjack is another situation where now it started out years ago. When I first became involved, it was just the 5 counties on both sides of the river, Skamania, Klickitat, Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties. Now it's expanded quite a bit, and we have interoperability coordinators from both Oregon and Washington states. So we're again going to put together a broader group of folks to start lobbying for more support to get interoperable communications between all players in this Columbia Gorge region, both sides of the river. So hopefully that will get things going. Invited Washington State representatives to the April meeting for a presentation. And the challenge there is to get funding that we can all use on both sides of the river. If one of the counties gets funding, then we can't support or buy things that would then be used by another county or another state entity. So we have to think outside the box, and we're starting to do that in earnest, and I'm very encouraged by our last 2 meetings. Public Safety Radio Project. As you know, the SADIS Pass site has been online since the end of October. However, we're still working on some punch list items and that security camera feed. I was told that it is scheduled to, the second camera is scheduled to be replaced on Monday, the 25th of this month. And 911 call taking, public safety radio dispatching. As you can see, I'm here alone today. Phil is on a much needed time off. So I will do my best to read his notes. We are still and happily fully staffed, fully trained. We're in the process of reviewing the applications. We had at last count over 30, which is encouraging. Some of those that we've already reviewed and scored for determinations for an interview panel were promising. So I'm happy to see that. We are continuing with the cross-discipline training task force. And their work is in their first project or their first task. It's scheduled to be completed by the end of May. And so that's going well. Very happy to have that progress. Continuing to concentrate on training and cross training in 911 dispatch. I'm going to be adding another training officer in the coming weeks, and we get that person training on how to be a trainer first, and then start them to be actual trainers for our comms officers. Doing quite a bit of public education and community outreach. Now that we're fully staffed, we have that ability. Everybody's not working so much overtime just on the console. And it has had great effect already. We've already seen improved 911 callers giving us better information. A middle schooler called in a while back and just answered all the questions perfectly, and come to find out after the fact, they had just been in one of our 911 education seminars at the school. So that was great to hear. It's making a difference. We're also providing that training on all of our systems and what we do in 911 dispatch to other emergency responders, law enforcement most specifically. And we're still working to schedule additional training with the patrol and jail staff. The 911 dispatch standardization project at the state level is kind of stalled out. Winter storms, those people get pulled away at state EMD and state 911 to work in the emergency operations center and so on and so forth. So nothing new to report there. One exciting thing for our communications officers is that the legislation did pass, was signed, and moving forward with open enrollment later this year for what they're calling PSERS. So communications officers are now classified the same as emergency responders, law enforcement, fire, EMS, professional realm. So they get this retirement benefits and can retire in 20 years from a public safety emergency responder profession. A lot of those rules are still being fleshed out at the state level, but we're being told that there will be something in place and our folks can sign up or decide whether they want to go from PERS to PSERS is in July timeframe. So, but we're very happy to have that recognition. It's been way overdue that 911 dispatchers have been considered clerical staff and not part of the emergency responder classification. So that's a big boost to our morale. Any questions on 911 dispatch? Okay. The emergency management program. As I mentioned before, continuing to work with the Klickitat School Emergency Planning Working Group. Lots of good things, in my estimation, is coming out of that group. A lot of things that we are being able to better collaborate on, and things that the schools didn't know and we can help them with, or that we didn't know and they can help us with. So good collaborations going on in that group and all of its members. I think one of the latest is a proposal by White Salmon Valley School District first for all schools in Klickitat County to adopt the standard response protocol, SPR program. And at last email update I got from the ESD representative, all the school districts in Klickitat County had committed to signing up for that program and adopting it and putting it into implementation by the fall start of school next year or later this year, which is very good. And in conjunction with that, emergency management is taking that to all the emergency responders, law enforcement, fire, EMS, so that we can all have that standard protocol, standard language. Everybody knows what the terms and those definitions are, speaking the same language, and everybody knows what they're going to do in the event of an emergency at a school. And we're all on the same page. I also, myself, the EM program coordinator and chief of operations made a presentation to the County Employee Safety Committee at their last meeting, presented that program and also recommended to that safety committee that they recommend it to you. And I'm also recommending that to the cities as well. If we all adopt that standard protocol, then no matter what school, government building that responders need to respond to, it will all be treated the same, and I think it will be a much more efficient and effective response. And this is being done in other places across the country, and even private corporations are using this program so that they can be standardized with law enforcement, fire, and EMS. We're continuing on all the other bullet points that are there, the projects that we've had ongoing to support the schools and to support the emergency responders' response to the schools. Any questions? Going kind
Thank
of
you for working with the schools. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
And it all stemmed from that swatting incident at Columbia High School almost a year ago now. It just grew out of that. Next on my agenda that's new was the Mount Adams Ranger District Tri-County Emergency Response Collaboration. We met on March 7th. Had over 30 people in attendance, both in person and online. That was several people from the U.S. Forest Service, Mount Adams Ranger District, including their law enforcement officers, Klickitat, Skamania, and Yakima County emergency responders from all disciplines. Also attended our sheriff's office, EMS, ambulance district chief, and of course, emergency management, 911 dispatch. It was a very productive meeting. And in the end, we all went away with certain deliverables and an agreement to hold this meeting again prior to the high summer activity recreation time every year. So sometime in the early spring, so that we can all maintain those connections and relationships and know who the players are at any given season. And this is specifically to address that unique area of our county in the Trout Lake where we border two other counties, Skamania and Yakima, and those borders are also the U.S. Forest Service. So those two counties in the National Forest, of course, they have no responders to respond. Yakima County takes 3.5, 4 hours to get here to that area for any response. There is no EMS service providers that have districts in those areas. So Klickitat County responders, specifically Trout Lake Fire, the EMS district, and the Sheriff's Search and Rescue, or the sheriff's deputies, if it's a motor vehicle collision, often end up responding there and conducting mutual aid activities with little coordination from the jurisdiction having authority, which would be Skamania or Klickitat County, or excuse me, Yakima County. So we're working through all those things and gonna have a better way of dealing with that in the future. Any questions? Excellent. Winter storm. So good news is that the preliminary damage assessment request that we submitted last month sometime to the state was processed at the state. We were told that the state had met its threshold for the dollar amount and that emergency under the emergency declaration for the state. And just recently we've been told that our dollar amount that we submitted met the requirements and that FEMA had signed off preliminarily. So the amount that we submitted, which will probably go up now that we know the costs for the county entities, make sure, yep, that under here. This included our public works, the damage to the public safety radio sites, and city of Bingen wastewater treatment plant and water roof repair and a pump repair, all due to the storm damage, totaled $571,000 plus or minus. PUD also submitted a further request of $300,000 plus or minus. So the total from our county so far is $871,000 that we've just met another threshold to maybe get reimbursed for that amount through the FEMA program. No, not to our knowledge. PUD, typically all that has to go through emergency management. Anything in the county that needs public assistance that way goes through emergency management. In this case, the state emergency management division allowed PUD to do their own because it was so significant.
Right, and I would just, I believe, could be wrong, that the reason the schools needed that proclamation was for number of school days type of thing, not because of damages.
Yeah, I heard of some water stuff.
Yeah, and it's not too late. Like I said, these were preliminary damage assessments that we submitted, in my opinion, way too
Does
soon.
our proclamation of emergency have to stay open and current while we're handling this situation? Is that what's going on with that?
No, at this point, I'm recommending that we rescind that declaration, and I will
We
have
have all
some.
of our information in our,
Yeah, everything it's in line, and we've met all those requirements so that we can apply for the funding and deal with that emergency that is for us ongoing. Right now, our radio system is still compromised with just temporary repairs having done, but I will be submitting to you for your agenda tomorrow morning for next Tuesday to rescind that declaration.
perfect, thank you.
What do you think our chances are of getting the $570,000?
You put me on the spot, right? So I think they're pretty good at this point.
Okay,
This is farther than we've ever gotten in this process. Usually we don't have enough qualifying expenses to meet their minimum threshold. So we do all this work and then it gets kicked back, sorry, didn't meet their threshold. Yeah, we've not only got the state sign off now, but FEMA sign off on the overall state. As a whole state, we met that threshold. So, yes. I'm hopeful. And that's, like I said, either the total amount, 871, that's very significant. You know, the county, 500,000 and the PUD, 300,000. So, myself and, program coordinator Huey are following up and making sure that we can benefit from whatever assistance is out there and available.
thank you for all that work.
Yes.
I know it's a lot.
You're welcome, but we're not gonna, it's one of those cases, we just continue.
You are now close to crunch time, if not over crunch time, so.
Prioritize, okay, so, couple other things I'll let you know, if you have any questions, ask, there's a whole nother page left on the agenda. Oh, one thing, before I do move on to any extras, Employee of the Month, Chief of Operations Filiberto Ontiveros, even though he's not here today, taking a much needed days off. He is March Employee of the Month for Department of Emergency Management. If he's
Well,
off.
congratulations to Phil.
Yes. Just to let you know, I have also been paying attention to the fire weather and fire behavior on the ground. Recently, in the last less than a week, we've had 5 escape burn piles in the county. And thankfully, the structure fire that we had in Georgeville yesterday did not spread to the wildlands. And none of these are spreading in a dynamic way. But if people are not burning in a very wise and appropriate manner, the grass left over from last year, dead grass, lots of it, nice and tall, has dried out in the wind in the last several days with warmer temperatures, has allowed them to start and spread slowly, requiring local fire response. And one of those, the DNR even responded to. But it also, which is encouraging from my perspective, is allowing some of our partners to start doing prescribed burn even earlier. So I know that Mars is out there doing prescribed burns yesterday and today along the Glenwood Highway. And that's good. Fuels reduction is going to help us in the long run when we get down to fire season. To tag along with that, the drought statement came out from the National Weather Service just the other day, and they're still predicting from the National Fire Predictive Services that we're in through June and leading into July for a average fire season. So that's what they're still predicting. So that's encouraging as well. Any questions? I hope I didn't skip anything. Okay.
I have nothing.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You did good in your time allotment.
They always try.
Madam Chair, can I have 1 minute? Twofold. I do notice the consent agenda to make the paper of record. Normally, we get a piece in our packet that is there filling out the application, you might say, that tells us how many subscriptions they have per week per blah, blah, blah. Did we get that this year? Yeah, they have to, they fill out a qualification essentially that makes them the Golden Hill Sentinel, our paper of record.
Being, no, being that we only have one legal paper in our county, we do not have to go out for bid.
But I thought they've always in the past filled out a little form that says how many papers how many subscribers they have and all that kind of thing. And it's usually in the packet. And this is the first year I haven't seen that.
Is this the first year we haven't went out for bid? Yeah, so that would be the difference.
That would be, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they
Okay.
have to just.
And the only other thing I had to point out was in the packet of stuff that's already been signed. Did we notice the vehicle that the OBD2 connector wasn't working? Remember, and there was recommendations to, it was a blown fuse. And now the question is,
That was
it
good.
cost us $165 to replace a blown fuse. That's a whole nother comment. At least we didn't sublet or sell the vehicle.
That's good. All right, moving on. Ready? Courtney, thank you for waiting.
Absolutely.
Good to see you.
Good
You
morning.
too. All right, so I believe the end of November, early December, I was notified through our current database system that we're using, which is called Probatum, which we just moved over about 1.5 years ago too. Notified us that they are dissolving their business come December 1st this year because of everybody in the state of Washington is phasing into the statewide live database system. So they're losing a lot of contracts due to that process. So I'm at a point where we're having to find something in between now and 2026 when our county will be eligible to phase into the live statewide system, which is free to the counties. But of course, we're not able to get on until 2026. So in between that notification and now I've been doing some research. I've looked into in the beginning with Tyler Technologies, which is the company that's doing the statewide system. It made sense to kind of look there first. What I'm being told by them is they have the live system that's not, we're not allowed to have access to yet, but they recreated it in a standalone system for us if we were to go with them. But even if we did, they'd still have to do a data conversion come 2026, even though they have that data. It would create hours and time for them to move that information from one system to the live system. And that was like a $40,000 quote just for that. So that was kind of.
For the transferring of the data? Wow.
Yes, so that was unnerving. So I looked elsewhere. So we recently, in January this year, I came before you and we moved contracts with to Scram. It's our electronic home monitoring agency that we use for ankle bracelets. They're a cheaper option. They also allow for other options. So they do the GPS, they do house arrest, alcohol monitoring, the breath check, where it's like a mobile device. They also have the bracelets where it's a sweat detecting for alcohol on a bracelet. And those are for more higher risk offenders. And they also have a database system. And their database system that we reviewed and did a Zoom trial with was very comparable to what Tyler has, but it also provided a lot more options at a cheaper cost. And it integrates with the EHM systems that we already have. So we're not having to duplicate the information. So when I say that, I mean, every morning I get reports from the EHM agency saying, okay, there's no violations. I have to go into my system and log that. I won't have to do that if we end up going through the same system with Scram. So essentially it's a cloud-based system. It's an internet-based system, and it's got like apps. So there's electronic home monitoring, GPS, and then it'll have Nexus, which is a database system. They're all combined, but the Nexus is more of our database logging of notes, UAs. It allows us to do sanctions and incentives. It allows me to have a lot more access to analytics for grant purposes, so I can see where it also even breaks down by like case manager. So see how well each individual is doing based on the client's success or not. So I enjoyed that part of it. Also, I like the fact that the Nexus system is completely customizable. So if something works, great. If something doesn't, we can easily tweak it to our liking, where Tyler didn't give us that option. Financially, it's smarter to go, I think, with the Nexus through Scram. It's only $8,400 a year. If I can find right here. Where right now with Probatum, it's $2,400 a year. But keep in mind, Probatum is a very, very basic database system. I can't create reports. I can only use the reports they have built in. If I wanted to find information and they don't already have that created, that is additional costs right now. So if I absolutely have to have it, I have to do it manually, which takes a lot of time. So comparing them is like comparing apples to oranges. And then Tyler Technologies, they quoted me $18,000 a year. So it's significantly higher. Setups cost for Scram is $7,000, and the setup cost for Tyler is $55,240.
They're proud of themselves.
They are very expensive, yes. Which I found odd, since a couple years ago when I was looking at Tyler, it was much cheaper then. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big tech person. I don't, all the ins and outs, but definitely they're a lot more expensive. There's not really an incentive that I found to go with them, because it's not like we're saving costs in the end. We're still going to have to do a data conversion one way or another in 2026.
But is the state, when we become eligible for the state one, is there any chance the state will have grant money available to do that transition for us, since they're mandating us do their state one?
Not necessarily grant, but there is discussions on whether or not AOC will be picking up the cost for the conversion.
There you go.
So I've spoken with a liaison for Misdemeanor Probation Association in Washington about this issue, because they were under the impression that if you're already working with Tyler, you're already have contracted with them, that when you onboard with the live system, that it's free data conversion. And I said, well, that's not the quote I got, and I forwarded it to them. So that is a conversation they're having to figure out what's going on there. Yeah.
Are there people that are already switching over to the new state system? Because it sounds like if the company is going out of business at the end of this year, but the live date for us isn't until 2026, are there people that are already rolling into it?
There are definitely other county probation departments that are looking into onboarding with Tyler early, or they're looking elsewhere for the meantime.
So the state then, I mean, so two options. Number one, is there any way of talking the company into getting another year? We've been a good member. We've been with them for a while. There's this go live date a year from now. Take our money, just keep the dang thing going. Is our current one on our servers, or is it a web-based as well?
It's a web base, and they said, no, they are not, they considered keeping some of us on, but they said it wasn't, when they calculated the
It wasn't enough of.
wasn't enough for them. And unfortunately, they notified me, unlike our old system was like on our server where I could continuously go back and check it and slowly migrate the data over. They said come December 1, it's shut down to us. We have no longer access to that information. If they want us to, if they offer to provide that data to us in some kind of data collection process. But of course that comes with the dollar amount. So they wanted to charge us $5,000 just to capture that data that we already have in verbatim in our current system. And so that we can migrate it ourselves.
We can't export everything we have in the online system right now? Or
The
our
only
IT
way
department? I mean, we should have a backup
No,
of all of it.
correct. So there's no way in there in the online system for me to like export it into an Excel spreadsheet. But what I can do is I can print off and save to a PDF, the all of our notes and the data from it. But then I had to manually input all that into the next new system.
There's gotta be a
Which is what what our team had to do with the last system. So I don't know if there's an easier way. I don't, not that I've not found an easier way.
Have you worked with IT to try to find an easier way? Because it should easily be exportable into some file or some format so that we can at least have a backup. And hopefully it's somewhere in our grant or our agreement with them that, we need to have that, because if their servers go down at any time, public records and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I haven't had the conversation about the converting or capturing that information and saving it once they stop their business and no longer give us access to it. But from the other system, we saved all our notes as a PDF and saved it to the electronic file that we have on backup. And then from day, an X date forward, everything was logged in a new system. And then we converted all the information into the places that it needed to be. So the other thought was, well, what are we going to do when we have to roll out to the statewide system in 2026, right? Luckily, all the profiles will be already made in the AOC statewide system. So the client names, date of birth, identifiers, phone number, address, that information will already be in the statewide system. So probation is only going to have to upload probation's information, like UAs, court hearings. Well, not even court hearings, because court's going to do the court hearings, probation appointments, things like that is what we'll have to upload. But all the other stuff, it won't be as tedious as what we're having to do at this point.
So will there be a charge from uploading Nexus to the state then?
No, because, yes and no. So probation will be accountable for having to input that. But like I said, it's
won't
not
like
as
the other
much
one.
because we're not starting from like a blank page. Like half the page is already filled.
Okay.
So, which is really, really nice. Because I would say 90% of our clients are already in the system. We don't get clients that aren't already, they've already been adjudicated or have a charge pending. So that's already been pre-built by the court clerks. So by the time we get them, all that information, a lot of that information is already there. So I'd ask the commissioners to consider the two agencies that I've looked into. We already have a signed contract with Scram, and within that contract, they already built in that if we wanted to opt into Nexus as a database system, that it's there if we're a allowed to, or if we want to do that. So I wouldn't have to do like a signed agreement because it's already built into the agreement we already signed. I just have to give them the okay as long as we have the funding to support that. With Tyler, it would be a whole new contract. We'd have to review and go through that.
We wouldn't need to take it to bid, would we? Are they on the state contracts, Graham?
I don't know that answer.
Having a contract with them already definitely helps, so.
Correct.
There is no way that we can talk the state into putting us on a pilot project, because we can go to them and say, hey, look, we have 1 year of a gap year. Is there anything you can do to give us the money, or can you pay for Tyler to do it since you're gonna be paying for it in the future? Have we had those conversations with the state?
We have not. So in talking with Verbatim, they had said that the more people that was switching from Verbatim to Tyler, the more people that departments that do that, the cheaper the costs are. The only concern is that the Tyler technology, they provide all these great things, services, but it's like a la carte. So what I've drafted up with the dollar amounts, that's just the basics. That's just for the database system. They've talked about conversations are being had with AOC, the statewide system, and them potentially picking up the cost for the data conversion, but it has not been communicated to me that there's any cut in costs or that the state would be considering.
I mean, we're really talking about a 1 year gap here. And if the state knows, is there, so it would be before we go with, because we're gonna have to do a data change over at some point anyways. It seems ridiculous that we do it now and then again in a year to get it for free. If the state, if it's built and there's already people that are going live, other counties, and I know we've got a date in 26, but I would like to at least have the conversation with the state saying, hey, we're gonna lose ours. Can we jump forward and can you pick us up if that's a possibility?
Well, and I would imagine they're gonna say, talk to Tyler.
Well, I
Because
mean,
Tyler is the company that is providing that service. And so, and that is because it's alive and they're phasing in counties, there's a lot of editing going into it. And that's why they gave me the standalone option, which is like a copy of the live, but it's not
but
access to it.
Tyler gave that, not the state. And so if we go to the state and ask the state, hey, we're about to lose ours, could we get bumped ahead to the end of this year so that we don't have to have an interim? Is that something the state would be willing to do and phase us in ahead of time because we're losing our program?
I could definitely have that conversation.
Okay, I would like to have that conversation
Okay.
before making the decision,
Yeah, I
because it
agree.
might save us
Sure.
$17,000 and all the problems
Right.
and a lot of work on your part.
A lot of work.
And you have time. We don't have a ticking time clock. I mean,
Well, we
you have
do.
a few months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Compared to
Yes.
the rest of our time
Okay.
clock, it's not bad.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Thank
And-
you for coming early.
Yeah. Well, and also, I do have a meeting scheduled with some, grant writers that, District Municipal Courts Judges Association. They have a contract with the grant writers, and it's, available to the courts of limited jurisdiction. And, I've been working with them on other grants, options. And, I'm inquiring this Thursday with them about grant funding to help support some of this technology stuff too, as well. So, as I know more, I can get back with you.
Yeah, I'm interested in what the state has to say. They're kind
Okay.
of causing this, so.
Absolutely.
so we kind of need their help.
100%.
Mr. Christopher, anything? No?
Other than sorry for all the work you're having to do.
Surprise.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah. That's where I'll leave it.
Well, thank you. I will reach back out to you guys, when I have more information then.
All right.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Courtney. Okay.
The sheriff here.
Yeah, we have,
No, it's okay.
HR Director Rob Van Cleve would like to have a closed session.
Okay.
um, to discuss collective bargaining proposals, negotiations, grievance, mediation and or arbitration proceedings, all associated with collective bargaining in accordance with RCW 42301404. Issues of the general nation will be discussed in.
Okay. Thank you.
Fringy. Fringy. But you'll have to read it out when you go into closed session. I was just telling you which one.
That Pringy is a,
You'll have to read the RCW, Fringy, and read it out.
so we'll be going into executive session.
Closed.
Closed session in accordance with RCW 4230.110, Pren G.
Pren 1, Pren G.
Pren 1, Pren G, to review the performance, discipline, and or qualifications of a public employee, or closed session to discuss collaborative bargaining proposals, negotiations, grievances, mediation, or arbitration proceedings, all associated with collective bargaining in accordance with RCW 42.30.140. Issues of a general nature will be discussed in open session.